Are we live? We are live. We are live and lonely. It's a weird Friday to be doing this, though. I got to admit. People, where are people? People. What if you threw in office hours and no one showed up? There's one person here. All right, off to a good start. If we accumulate one person per minute, this will be real lively. I think. To show my seriousness for my charity event, I have officially instituted the mustache. It's growing in. So by the time bits rolls around, it should be about down to here. But I'll probably have to groom that in some way. Welcome, 4 of you. It's nice to see you all. Oh boy, where'd that go? I have lost chat. Where did chat go? Oh man. Someone's gonna have to like tweet the questions at me or something. Now I don't know how to get chat back. We had chat. Chat, where are you? Chat. Oh, someone left. Someone didn't want. Oh, someone came back. Thank you for coming back. So I'm gonna have to do something kind of weird, I think. I'm gonna have to go on. I'm gonna have to go on this from my phone, I think, so I can look at the chat window again, because I have no idea where it went, and there's no button that says bring back the chat. So bear with me for a second here while I fumble with this nonsense. Yeah, there we go. Hey, yep, this is a live thing. All right, I can see me. All right. Yes, Mike says, nice stash. Thank you, Mike. I can see chat on my phone now, so we've reached this bizarre level of recursion that I don't even know how to deal with. Woohoo! All right. Let's see. Let me make this a little bit more tolerable for all of you. I'm going to hold my phone here and ask it. James says, best SQL Server trainer, hands down. Thanks. You should tell that to Brent, because he'd love to hear that. That would be the first thing I'd want to do. Let's see. I had to leave create a channel so I could chat. Weird. Yes, that is weird. I don't understand why YouTube would make you do that. Right now, YouTube won't even let me try to get the chat window back up without ending my live stream. So YouTube has some damn work to do on this interface, because this is ridiculous. My sweater in a cold region. Yes, I am in a cold region. I'm in the Northeast, but thankfully I am indoors, and thankfully, see that pipe in the corner right there? That thing gets absolutely nuclear blazing hot in a way that human words can't describe. So, like, even if I tried to get cold in here, I would fail miserably because of that pipe. That pipe, I mean, you could barbecue it. If you like wrap meat around that pipe, it would cook. It would cook through. It's insane. Yeah, it's. When I used to live in an apartment in Astoria, Queens, and when I lived there, the whole building was steam heat, and during the winter, my room would get ridiculously hot because I had a big steam pipe in it. I had the radiator turned off. There was no radiator. Like the radiator was like, no, screw. The one time I turned the radiator on, it was like boiling. And during the winter, what I could do is have my bedroom window open, put a 6-pack of beer in the windowsill. The beer would be nice and cold, and my room would be temperate, and I could just sit there pleasantly drinking beer with the window open, like sub-zero, like snowstorm, cold, freezing. It didn't matter all winter long. Let's do a barbecue next Friday. Yes, all right, we'll do a barbecue next Friday. That sounds good to me. I like barbecues, especially when I don't have to go anywhere for them. It's the best kind of barbecue. It's a stay-home barbecue, the stay-barbecue, the stabby-cue. I don't know. It's all weird. It's all very weird. Da, da, da. I'm looking at stuff and I'm not ignoring you. I promise. I'm not ignoring you. It's I either stare at myself on YouTube or I look at to see if anyone said anything dumb about me on Twitter. I just bounce back and forth between that. But you nice people who decided to show up today. Why are you here? I don't know. If you want to ask questions, James, you can ask questions. What else would you like to do? It's like office hours except lonelier. Let's see here. Let's see. We'll start with Marcy's question. What is the best way to triage network performance if you put your app in a data center? What about so like, do you mean like apps communicating with the SQL Server? Like are you alive, or do you mean like applications pulling data back and forth across the network? Because it's two kind of different things there. In that, like, okay, so if when I think about networking in a data center, I think about two things. I think about the path that data has to take from the SAN, right, from the disks across the channels to get to your SQL Server to get read into memory and then to end up in the application. And then I think about like, the bobs and weevils that the data has to get across to then go to the application. So there's two different sort of types of networking that are at play there, and what you gotta be clear about is like which one you think the problem is, because a lot of the times when people think that they have a problem with network performance going from the SQL Server to the app, the problem is really like that the app server itself is either underpowered, overloaded. I've seen app servers in balanced power mode that reduced like app time by like 30 or 40%. That was a nightmare. So there's a lot of different angles you could approach that from that I would be curious to hear more about. Darren says, do you do any work with Azure managed instances or MDs? What's an MDs? I don't know. I don't know what an MD is. So that might tell you how much work I do with Azure. But I like them. I just don't have a free one to play with. If you have one that you want me to do something to, I'd be happy to work with it. I have nothing against them. I think they're lovely things. I think that the managed instance thing in particular is going to do a lot for Azure adoption as it matures as a product. Just like I would be able to do a lot if I ever matured as a person, but I refuse. Okay. Triage SQL, that is. So Marcy, start with wait stats. If you're waiting a lot on async network IO, then it is time to figure out what those apps are doing. The other part of that picture is how the apps ingest data. So I'm going to tell a pretty funny story about one time. I know I've told this in the past, but I was working at a real job, and we had this in-house bug tracking software, and the developers for it like redid the whole user interface, and they added a bunch of like pretty things to it so that when you went to like log a ticket or look at ticket activity, you could feel like you were looking at a real work of art. There were like animations and things would like slide across the screen. But when they rolled it out, everyone said the SQL Server got really slow. And I was like, okay, let's look at the SQL Server. And of course, I'm looking at the SQL Server, and the SQL Server is bored out of its mind. It's like barely registering wait stats. So I'm like, all right, so let's capture one of the queries that the app is running, and let's see how long it just takes to hit it in SSMS. So we do, and it returns immediately. I'm like, all right, so let's use one of the app servers that still sees the old UX and see if that's slow. So we do it over there. and like the bare bones HTML, ugly as sin, like clunky rectangle button, like gray button website, blazing fast there too. So we had them disable like the new like CSS crazy animation stuff on the new one, and when we did stuff there, it was blazing fast too. So it was actually the way that the app ingested data and the things that the application did to present that data out to people that made things look slow, and that made it look like there was a SQL Server problem or a network problem, but it was really just crappy app design. That's fun, right? Fun stuff. Let's see. App is in a new data center. SQL did not move, so app. Well, Atlanta to Vermont. That's a pretty good hike. What I mean, like, what happens if you let's start easy, and let's say what happens if you copy a file from one data center to another. Like, let's just say you like want to drag and drop a file. Let's see how fast that goes. That's what I would want to know. I would want to like, you could ping stuff and trace route and all that other Wireshark and whatever else, but take like a 1 gig file and just see how long it takes to copy from one thing to another. That's always kind of a fun way to do things. Let's see. Managed data. Oh, managed database. I see now. So Azure SQL DB, you called MD, you tricky son of a gun. All right. James says, I am planning on going from DBA to SQL developer. What is the best training I can get for advanced T-SQL? Boy. So when I think about advanced T-SQL, there's like a real wall that you hit, right? So like you can't, there's like no more complicated syntax to do something at some point, right? You use like what, a row number, a windowing function, nothing like, there's not a lot that's really changed with T-SQL lately. And a lot of the problems that have been solved with it that are hard are pretty well written about. So if you think about stuff like bin packing, traversing hierarchies, doing like the last non-null, any sort of like ordered set stuff, there's very few people who do that, or rather who write about that and write about it well. I mean, really, you're looking at Itzik, Ben-Gan. So what I always say is buy the most recent book. Oh, it's down here somewhere. Buy the most recent book on T-SQL, which right now is this, and it's backwards. Oh man! So it's called T-SQL Querying. It's by Itzik, Ben-Gan and my friend Adam Machanic. And I think that if you just have this book as a reference, you can get through a lot, and because there's just good, thorough explanations of like how to solve a lot of common problems that do require more advanced T-SQL. But it's not like, when you're writing these queries, you need, like, there's a more advanced join you can write. All right. It's like a join is a join pretty much, right? You just need to figure out, do I need inner, outer, left, right, up, down, cross apply or something. After that, it's, the syntax doesn't like get infinitely more complex as you do more things. So I would start with a nice book that just gives you reference material on how to do certain stuff. And then as you approach different problems, maybe that's when things get more complicated. Let's see here. What else we got? Nothing. No other questions, really? All right. Guess I can start drinking then. No, I have to go to the gym. Wait, maybe I won't bother. Maybe I'll just start drinking. Go to the gym tomorrow. I have so many choices. All right. Any other questions? Anything else? Let's see. Let's see. Darren, firing stuff up. Do you know of any resources for managed instances in no. So it depends on what you want to learn. Where Microsoft has kind of sadly fallen short is that kind of learning resources on stuff. They used to have these virtual labs where you could go in and for free spin up and set up like a failover cluster availability group, log shipping, mirroring, all sorts of cool bells and whistles. They're doing away with that and they're replacing it with something. I'm not really sure what it is, but what makes it tough for me to like, get on a high horse and say, hey, I really want to talk about this Microsoft product. Is it if I want to do anything with a managed instance, it's going to cost me like $1,500 a month because there's no developer managed instance. There's no like, hey, you might blog about this and get people to adopt it. Here's a managed instance that you can kick around in our. Here's like a fifth of of a VM in our $1 billion data center. Here, go have fun with it. It would cost me like real money to play with a managed instance and to be able to write more stuff about it. So I think part of the reason why you might not see as much written about those topics as you want is that it like unless someone has a job where their job is paying for like that hardware and they get to and like work with or rather work like paying for that service and they get to work with that service day in and day out because that's how their business pay the bills. Oh, you're kind of out of luck. So if you know anyone at Microsoft who wants to give me a managed instance to play with and blog about the greatness and awesomeness of, sure, you can give them my email. You can give them my YouTube channel. I would love to have a chat with them here. Let's see. Yeah, there's no playground. That's something that a lot of people don't think about when they're moving their infrastructure to the cloud is like if you have dev and QA and UAT down like locally, there's no dev and QA and UAT up in the cloud. It all costs the same money, right? Like even if you say you put developer edition on, you're still paying. Excuse me, for a big old honking cloud instance. So that's a lot of fun to think about in that way. Have you thought about a podcast? Yeah, except what terrifies me about a podcast is that it might be expensive. Like I don't know what goes into making a podcast. I don't know how to like. I don't know. I just haven't. Yeah, in my head, sure, I would like to do it, but then when I look at the amount of time I have in a day and the amount of stuff that I have to do to try to, make a dime here and there, I'm just gonna like, well, I'd love to have a podcast, but if unless there's like a button I can push that makes a podcast for me, I don't know if I'm going to do it just yet. So maybe in time, maybe when I get some more free time, like after SQL bits and I do my pre-con there and hopefully survive everything. Get to it. But for now I'm just gonna do these. I'm also working under this like sort of like blanket of terror that I'll show up and there will be no one here. Like I'm very grateful for the 10 of you who chose to show up and ask me questions and talk to me about stuff. But man, if I'm ever here and there's like 10 past and there's 2 people and no one's asking a question and I'm staring at my screen uncomfortably making doots, then I don't want to be like, no podcast this week, no one showed up. Because what's challenging about the YouTube format is that there's no like screen share. So if like there were 2 people here who weren't asking questions, I couldn't switch it over to now I'm going to show you something. It was like I would have to, I don't know, do something totally different. I would have to use like a paid platform, like a GoToWebinar or something like that. So lots of stuff that I would have to do differently, but not necessarily in a bad way. Just a little bit, I'll get a little bit more infrastructure in place and things will go from there. I think that's a nice way of saying all the stuff that I just said. A little bit more infrastructure in place and then we're good to go. Let's see here. Steve asks, I recently ran SP Blitzcache and a top offender has warnings. We couldn't find a plan for this query. The proc is a 2,200 line nightmare. Any recommendations on next steps, diagnose resource? So every time I see that, it's either because the plan has a recompile or like the store procedure, the plan had a recompile hint on it or something. And like SQL Server logged some metrics about it, but didn't keep the plan, or the plan recompiled for some other reason. Sometimes like when you see that, there should be a bunch of reasons listed in there why there might not be a plan. So what I would do is just grab the query text or like the store procedure name from one of the other columns and see if you can get an estimated plan for it there. One of the kind of things that I always wish that I could have put into Blitzcache that I didn't get a chance to was like just some like validation on if a query plan is there, because it's good to be able to say, hey, this is a crazy, awful thing that is executing and doing stuff. If there's no query plan for it, it kind of defeats the plan, the point of a Blitzcache. So I always wanted to do something where if a certain amount of the values were null that came back or whatever, then we would it would change the value of top, so we would bring back some more plans to analyze. Because if you say top equals 10 and 5 of the lines are we couldn't find a plan for this query, and you're looking at maybe 5 plans that you are kind of limited value, they're probably at the end too. It's kind of stinks. Yeah. See, there's a lot of different reasons why plans might not be in the cache when we go look, and they all kind of stink. What I would say is, if it's a big 2,200 line store procedure like you're saying, most likely, so there's a limit to the number of nodes that can exist in XML. It's 128. And after 128, you have to run a special command to get the plan XML from another place, and you can't render it in any way that's useful. It's a lot of fun. So you can't cast it to XML because it's too big and it throws errors and you can't do anything good with it. So there should have been a query in there that said gave you a select star from a query plan text DMV for the SQL handle or plan handle that didn't bring back a plan in Blitzcache. And by the way, Blitzcache support now is 99 cents a minute, so you owe me $3. Damn, I underpriced myself. I should have said $2.99 for the first minute. Could have tripled my money. Damn. Let's see here. What is the best software source control for SQL Server? Look, Redgate kind of runs away with everything right now. I have issues with some of their products, but I think for stuff like that, Redgate runs away with it hands down. I wouldn't go with anything else right now. I would probably use a different monitoring tool, but for source control and DevOpsy type stuff, I don't think that I would trust anyone other than Redgate at this point. And that's just based on surveying kind of who does stuff, how involved they are with the SQL Server community, the number of people using them, the available training and kind of expertise on it. This just Redgate just stole the ball from everyone else and is just kind of standing there holding it over their head. So I just whatever you need to do, I would go to them first. So far as I know, they are, if you run into something that if you have some scenario that one of their products just is not addressing, they are pretty responsive and getting that kind of stuff put together, especially if you have a lot of money. or if you have a company name that looks good for them to say, hey, we work with awesome charity group corp or something. I don't know. Lots of fun stuff. I don't need any of this stuff. All right, let's get rid of some stuff on my phone that was blinking and making YouTube questions not show up properly. Next week, I promise it will be seamless because I won't click the wrong button near the participants window to make everyone disappear. I apologize. I sort of accidentally raptured all of you and sent you to Phantom Zone or something. But I'm able to join you from my phone. So we have a link. So come into the light, I guess. All right. Do we have any other questions from the magnificent 10 of you who have shown up? Let's see here. Darren says, have you ever worked with in-memory OLTP much? Exploring some solutions using it. No, and only because I never got a chance to. So it's a really excuse me, it's a really niche feature as far as what I think it's a good fit for. And all of the use cases that I've seen for it have been for incredibly high rate data ingestion applications where the data that you care about doesn't hang around long. So think about like an online gambling type thing where you have a bunch of events and people want to bet on events and do stuff, but as soon as that event is over, like no one's going to go back and care about it, right? Like events over, done, payouts. So when you want to ingest all of that like really high value data that needs to happen immediately, in-memory OLTP can be great for that. And then as soon as an event is over, you kind of flush it out to on disk tables where, you know, people can still get to it, but it's not going to be, you know, like blazing latch-free, lock-free stuff. And the reason that it's really good for that is because with the high rate of data ingestion stuff is that that's where the lock-free thing is really cool because it's all of those concurrent inserts and updates and stuff that really need to happen quickly. If your problem is like, well, we need this like data warehouse report to be faster, that's not a good use case for in-memory OLTP. And if your problem is like, we have 5,000 transactions a minute and they're kind of slow, then you don't need in-memory OLTP. You need a much more basic level of like tuning and indexing query stuff. Because the in-memory OLTP stuff, it really shines, I would say, like the 20, 25, 30,000 transactions a second or a minute or some ungodly number where, you know, you just really need to bang stuff in quick and no one can wait. You know, that like, there's like grandmas betting 50 cents on Greyhounds and stuff. Let's see here. Who is your pick for the Super Bowl? What teams are in the Super Bowl? You'd have to tell me that first, and then I'll pick. I have no idea right now. I pay almost no attention to any sports. Sorry. And I'm not anti-sport. I like watching sports in bars, and I like watching sports. I like watching sports highlights because I think anyone who can make millions of dollars doing that kind of stuff because they're just that good at it is pretty fun to watch. But yeah, I have two kids and a wife, and the amount of sports watching that goes on in my house is limited to the first like week to month when the Mets don't suck or when there's like a lot of anticipation that the Mets might do well this year, and then the Mets tank and no one watches baseball anymore. So that's about where my cutoff is. Let's see here. I'm starting to use more clustered column store indexes. Yes. Anything we should be careful of or anything cool we might be missing? So I'm going to go against nearly everything that I've ever said about index maintenance when I talk about column store, and that it is absolutely positively vital that you maintain your column store indexes. There's all sorts of stuff with like gravestones and deltas and compression and dictionaries and like all sorts of things that if you don't have your column store indexes maintained correctly, you can really boot performance on it. Joe Obish, I keep telling him to blog about it, but he doesn't. But maybe he finally will. But at his talk at PASS over last year, which might be out on video now, I'm not sure yet. But at his talk at PASS last year, he went into a bit how if you load a bunch of data into your column store indexes, but it's like loaded inefficiently or like data types are weird, then you can end up with like really, really bad query performance because you don't get like good dictionary compression or like run length encoding and all the other stuff that goes into making query store really, really fast. So like when you think about the number, like what makes column store really powerful right now is batch mode. So you work on batches of rows at a time rather than like single row at a time, like you do with row store indexes. And when you have like let's call them misloaded column store indexes, you end up working on far fewer batches because far fewer of them can fit in like an instruction at a time. But Joe Obish is the man to watch for that. I think Nico. I'm pretty sure he has some posts on it. If you want to dig through his like 150 post archive on Column Store, but that's the first thing that I would think of. So aside from maintenance, being very, very mindful of data types, and when you're working with Column Store, there are like certain plan operators that you just want to avoid, like constantly, like nested loops, merge joins, sorts, anything like when operators execute in row mode rather than batch mode for whatever reason. There's a lot of stuff that can go wonky with those queries. So I love Column Store and I love what they've been doing with it. There's still a lot of manual labor type stuff that you have to do when your queries run to make sure that you're getting the best performance of it. Everything is better in bars. Yes, everything absolutely is better in bars, except sleep. Sleeping in bars is not better. It'll get you thrown out pretty quickly. All right. Any other questions? Anyone else want to fire something fun at me? Let's see. I don't know. I was wondering if I was. No, nothing on Twitter. Okay. Sometimes I always think that someone might ask a question on Twitter if they can't show up here on the YouTube channel. Let's see. Some deranged creep wants to know my age, sex, and location, and I'm just gonna call in the Chris Hansen patrol on you. None of that. Am I excited about bits? Yes, I do have the costume, and I'm disappointed that you didn't notice the picture that I put on Twitter about the costume, because it is fully loaded. It is here. The only thing that I couldn't get is, so what's funny is when I was talking to Andy Mallon about like the costume that I was buying, he was all excited. He was just like he thought he had like a dead on thing in mind. I was like, look, I can do a lot of it. And he was like, well, did you get a racerback tank top? And I was like, I don't know what that is. I bought like regular tank tops, which I'm still gonna look fat in, but I can't like imagine it like a racerback tank top. And then like I got all nervous, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go look on Amazon for a racerback tank top. And I don't think that a clothing company has made a racerback tank top for men since Freddie Mercury wore one. And even at that juncture, he might have just worn one that was made for a woman, because he was a pretty slender fella, but not me. And like I tried to look at like women's sizes that might fit a man of my stature, and then I just got depressed. I didn't want to get into that. Hoping I'll bring it up for a preview. I'd have to go get it. I don't have it in my office. It's the one thing that I managed to talk my wife into not making me keep in the office, because everything else that might vaguely belong to me is jammed into my office. It is crazy. Do you have a pic of him? I can. Oh, geez, Louise. Let's see here. How can I do this? All right. Let's see. Where is? How do I get to a browser now? This is very challenging. You guys are pushing the limits of my technical ability here. Freddie Mercury. Live Aid. Come on, baby. Come on. Don't fail me now. There we go. Images. No, not videos. Images. Come on, phone. There we go. All right. So this is a very close approximation of what I will look like at SQL Bits. I can't do justice to his armpit hair, and I'm not going to be able to lose 120 pounds, but I have that outfit pretty well nailed, except for the racerback tank top. That's just going to be a regular tank top. I don't know if I can tuck mine in either. That might get dangerous. I don't know how that's going to go. That might not be a great idea. Excuse me. Jeez Louise, it is dry in here. All right, let's see. Get back into the old YouTube. Come on, baby. There we go. Yeah. Practice the pose. The live stream picture-in-picture. Thank you. That is the one thing that I have managed to get right in my time on YouTube is live stream picture-in-picture. When I tried to schedule these, starting this up was the most painful thing I've ever done. I had to pay $10 for an encoder or a decoder called like Wirecast, and every time I went to start it up, it would tell me that my camera didn't work, and there would be like blue screen, like not like computer blue screens, but it would just show me like a blue screen preview, and it was terrible. So not like me, but like when I just hit like the go live button, it's dead simple. When I try to schedule these, it's miserable. I'm gonna have to do something really. Let's see. Any other fun questions? You creeps staring at my poor office. Let's see. Zach asks. Oh no, that was the same person. Practice the pose. No. I mean, it's just the arm up, right? This isn't a good camera for me to practice. It'll be fun. It'll be fine. Let's see. We have a question, or maybe we have a statement. I don't know. We'll figure it out in a minute. Sam says, by tuning indexes on a secondary, moving reporting to read-only secondary is a really popular movement in my workplace. I'm concerned about how to manage the disparate index needs. Yeah, I wrote a post about this recently that is scheduled, and I think for like 2 weeks from now. I'm blogging my butt off. But it's it's tough to, like, depending on how you're replicating the data. You usually can't have a different set of indexes on a secondary than what you have on the primary, and what makes things even more challenging. And I think this might be the third week in a row that I've said this, is that the index DMVs on like readable secondaries don't migrate their data back to the primary, so you have a really hard time figuring out like what indexes are good for anything. Some point, it's like looking around like, okay, this one looks good here, and this one looks good there. It all just goes to heck at some point, though. And it would be nice if there was like something that coagulated all that DMV data, but there is nothing at this point. You are stuck doing that on your own, writing your own scripts to push data around. But yeah, so like unless you use some form of like capital R replication, by that I mean like not AGs or log shipping or mirroring, where you can apply a script afterwards to make different indexes on a secondary available than what are just on the primary. Yeah, kind of out of luck on that, and that's too bad, because I know that with availability groups, at least on readable replicas, SQL Server is able to create like temporary statistics. So it would be nice if you could create temporary indexes too. That would be fun. Aggregate, not coagulate. No, I like coagulate better. I think coagulate sounds better as a word. Aggregate just sounds aggressive and angry, not fun. Coagulate, that's like we're gonna go have fun. We're doing it together. Coagulate. A bloody mess. Why? Lots of things coagulate. Pancake batter. Fat. I don't know what else. What else coagulates? I'm trying to think of something that coagulates in a pleasant way now, and I'm starting to see your point. Maybe coagulate isn't good either. Maybe there's no good way to say we bring things together. There's no good single word for that. They're all just ugly. All right. Anything else? Any other fun questions? Observations? Mm-hmm. All right, folks. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate all of you showing up and asking stuff. I will be back next week at the same time doing the same thing, and hopefully you'll be able to make it then. I'll see you next time. Thank you. And next time I will have the Freddie Mercury costume ready to show you. I think we're getting close enough to bits now where I can do the reveal. So I will see you next week. Not dressed up, but I'll have it. I'll tease you a little. Maybe I'll wear some little shorts or something. Bye.